Hi and welcome. Now that we have authentication in place, we need to create protection. In other words, it's useless until we use it. There are two things we need to protect: API endpoints and client-side routes. When we finish with authentication, we'll dive at last into implementing core features of this application, and one of them is creating a game event. Only authenticated users can do that. So let's mock it up with very simple form and first protect API endpoint, because that's the most important security measure. And then in the next episode, we'll use higher order component to protect client-side route. So as usual, we start from the route. So let's define in client routes new route here, which we call new event. And the component will be, you guessed it, new event page. So we need, of course, to import it. So we'll call it new event page. Yeah, but here we add events. Okay, so now here in components, we create events folder, and inside of it, new event page.js file. There's going to be a component, new event page, like this. And this component is very simple. It will just render for now event form component. So let's import it. Event form from event form. So now we need to create this event form. And here we'll define simple mock form with just one field and submit button. I'm going to copy and paste code here to save us some time. Like this. So we again reuse in text field group, and we define props with just one field title, and we have errors and is loading for growth. We have on change and on submit, pretty usual stuff that we did before. And we have a simple form with header and one text field and a button. So now if we go to browser and let's go to new event, here is our form. Excellent. Next, we need to make request to server on submit. And for that, of course, we need to connect form with Redux and create thunk action as usual. So let's do this. Pretty standard stuff by now. We import connect from React Redux. At the end of the file here, we connect this component with Redux and we pass here create event. And here, of course, we need to import this create event, and we import it from actions, event, actions. And of course, as this form expects something, so it's better for us to define prop types. So it expects create event to be function is required. Okay, so now we need, of course, to define our action. So let's create in actions event actions.js file. And inside of here, we import the access and we export function create event. And this function will take event. And all it does is it returns dispatch because that's this thunk action. And then it returns access.post. We're going to make a post request to API events, and we pass this event data to it. So back in the form, we need, of course, to call this. So let's go to onSubmit, and here we'll do this props, create event, and we pass this state. So we're skipping any validations here because this form is not actually real, it's just a mock-up. Okay, so now if we go to browser and let's load it and let's make a submit, we have the submit. And of course, as we logged in, we have authorization header right here. Excellent. So from server-side point of view, we want to make sure that request is coming from authenticated user, but for that we need to verify token. And to do that, we'll create simple express middleware. But first we need, of course, to define route itself. So let's open server index file, and here we need to define another route, and we call it events. And we need, of course, to import it here as well, events. Now we need to create it in routes events.js. And inside of here, we define router. And the router itself is going to be post request like this. So this is the basic scaffolding. So in the route itself, we want to respond with success. So we do status 201. So this means created. And for JSON, we'll do simple generic success true. So again, this is just a mock. In the real application, we'll create actual event and then respond with 201 status. So let's try it in a browser. I'm gonna save it, go back here, and if we make request now, we have successful response. And if I log out and make the same request, I again have successful response. But that's not good. In this case, we need to respond with not authorized error. And for this, we're gonna use Express Middleware. So we're gonna define it. Let's import Authenticate from middleware's Authenticate. And this is going to be a middleware, and we're going to use it right here, Authenticate, like this. So in short, when request comes to this route, first this Authenticate middleware function is called. Inside of this function, we'll check for token, validate it. If everything's okay, then we proceed with route code here. But if there is no token or token is invalid, then middleware responds with error and halt operation, so routes code never executes. So basically, it's just a chain of functions called one by one. So in our case, authenticate will come first, and then our route code. So now let's create this authenticate middleware. So here we create middleware's folder, and inside of it, authenticate.js. Middleware is just a function, the regular function like a route function. It takes request, it takes response, and also it takes next, which is a callback function that calls next function in a chain. Okay, inside of it, we can do anything we want. So first of all, let's get token. So we'll have this authorization header, which is passed to us in request headers authorization. And then let's define token. By default, it's going to be null or undefined. And if we have this authorization header passed to us, then we want to get token from it, because you remember that our authorization has the word bearer, then space, and then token itself. So what we're going to do, we're going to take authorization header and we're going to split it by space. And that returns array. And then we'll take the second element of this array, which is going to be token. So now we check. If we have token, we need to validate it. Otherwise, we do not have any token. So we need to respond with error. So we'll have status 403, JSON, and we'll have error here, no token provided. So this is the basic case when we have no token at all. So let's have a look in the browser. So right now I do not have any token here in local storage because I logged in, and when I try to create it, I'm getting forbidden status. And here it is, no token provided, which is exactly what we want. Excellent, it works. So now, if we have token, then we need to verify it. For that, of course, we'll need to import JSON web token for verification, and we need also to import config from our config, because in this config file we store JWT secret. Okay, so if we have token, we need to verify it, and we do it with JWT verify, and then we provide token itself, and then of course secret, JWT secret from our config, and the callback function which takes error and decoded token, decoded information from this token. So in this case, if we can't verify JWT token, if it's invalid, we need again to respond with error. So if we have any kind of error at all, we just respond with status 401 and JSON error failed to authenticate. They're just arbitrarily error messages. We'll brush them up later. So this is when we have wrong JWT token. Let's have a look. Let's save it. Let's go back to browser and let's try to log in with valid credentials. And now let's go back to our new event form. And let's go to application and change this token. I'm just gonna delete last character from it. So now let's reload the page and let's try to make a request. And here we go, we have 401 failed to authenticate because our JWT token is invalid. We can't verify it on a server. Nice. So the last step if everything is okay, if token is there and it's valid, so we handle it in this branch, we're gonna find user by ID from this token and add it to current request so it can be used later in middleware chain. So what we're gonna do here, we'll create new user. So let's first import this user from our models. So we'll have models user. Now we define new model user with ID decoded .id, and we're gonna fetch it. It returns promise, so we'll have then with user. And again, it's possible that we will not find the user. So if we can't find it, we respond with 404. It can happen, for example, that JSON web token is valid, but user has been deleted or maybe blocked by admin, for example. So in this case, if we can't find user, we'll respond with status 404 and again JSON with error no such user. But if everything's okay, if we have user, what we're gonna do, we'll define new variable current user on our request object and assign it to be user, and then we call next, like this. So as you can see, we call next only if token is valid and there is a valid user associated with this token. In all the other cases, we just throw errors. This way we can be sure that current user is available to us in authenticated routes. So let's test it out. So I'm gonna log out and log in again to fix my authorization token here. And let's go to new event here. And let's try to create, and we have successful event with success true, which is exactly what we want. And now we have current user available to us in routes. Let's have a look. So let's open our route events. And instead of responding with just a success, let's respond with user to equal request current user, just to have a look. Let's go back to browser and let's try to create, and now in events we have user and all details about our current user, and now you can see again that we have password digest here, which is not good. So just in case, let's select only safe fields, because we're gonna use this current user later, and it's a danger that this kind of thing can slip away. So for that, let's go back to our middleware, and instead of just making this kind of thing here, I'm gonna create a query, and inside of this we'll have where ID equal decoded.id, and select is gonna be an array of columns that we want to select, and there's gonna be email, ID, and maybe username, like safe stuff. So now if we go back to browser and try to submit again, now we'll have much safer user details, which is very important, but still, let's go back to our route and I'm gonna undo this change because we do not need to return user here. And that's how we protect API endpoints from now on. So for any route that requires authenticated user, we just add Authenticate Middleware and we're good to go. So let's commit. Authenticate Express Middleware. So in the next episode, we'll use high order component to handle client-side route protection. So thanks for your time, and if you found this episode useful, please share it with your friends and subscribe to this YouTube channel or follow me on Twitter to get updates. Thanks for watching.